We're going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube, and also rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. We are live after the Chicago Bears officially went undefeated in the preseason. Now, I'm kind of curious. What do we think out there? Are we excited that we finished the season or the preseason undefeated? How important is it that we finish the preseason undefeated? Because first off, I kind of like it. Right? We talk about the winning culture, and yes, it's the preseason and other things like that, but it's good that in this new regime that they haven't experienced a loss. That the idea is that you got to just keep on winning and keep on winning football games. Now, it might sound a little meatballish of me to say that, but it's still a good. It's better to win these games than lose these games. That's all that I got to say. But ultimately, Bears are 4-0 in the preseason, and it's finally done. 34-21 is the final score. Also, Shy Drax out there saying, "What is up? Hope all is well, my friend." He's saying, "Yeah, like my dad and I, we weren't able to watch the game today. We weren't able to watch it today, but man, it was fun. Like, it was fun for the first beginning part when we got to see Tyson Bagent. But what did everyone else think of it? Because to me, it's a little crazy. It's a little bit much. I was definitely at the end of the game going, all right, when can this be done? I'm glad preseason's over, and I'm excited that football is now going to be starting because it's the end of the preseason. But here's the crazy part too. The Bears don't play until September 8th. So we still have to wait a good 2.5 weeks in order for the Bears to play. So personally, I don't really love that. I kind of wish that they would have, made it Labor Day weekend. That's my personal take on it. And I think it's a little bit too long to wait. But still, we have to wait a little bit longer for real meaningful snaps. But I think this also opens up the question that a lot of people have been asking. Are the Bears going to do something? Are they going to be signing someone? Are they going to be adding anybody in? Because that's the big question that I know a lot of us had. So that's the piece. That's the big thing that I am going to be looking for is, are they going to be adding anybody? But also, Shy Drax saying, I was watching the competition between Reed and Rippon. Yeah, what did you think about that? Because that was interesting to see. Let's actually take a look at some of these stats and just kind of break down some of the statistics of the Chicago Bears from this game. So, like Shy Drax was saying, Rippon and Reed, that was a big competition out here as kind of that third stringer. I still think that it's Rippon's game, and I think ultimately it's going to be Rippon's job as that QB3, kind of manning down that practice squad. Because Brett Rippon, 9 of 13, 106 yards, quarterback rating of 93.8. Austin Reed, 8 of 10 for 63 yards and a touchdown. And Tyson Bagent, 3 of 6 for 57 yards. So nothing crazy, but he was only in on 1 or 2 drives that ultimately ended up in a touchdown. And then on the receiving side, the Tyler Scott breakout game, 6 catches for 99 yards. Simba Webster with 3 receptions for 68 yards. And on the running side of it, Velus Jones, 13 carries for 111 yards. And Travis Homer, 4 carries for 13 yards. And Ian Wheeler, 5 carries for 5 yards. So really, the big running back today was Velus Jones. And that was something that we were curious about. Are they going to be playing him as the running back? Are they going to see what he could do at wide receiver? And I want to say, I did think it was a little bit interesting that they waited to put him as the backup running back. They had Travis Homer as the starter. Then they even put Ian Wheeler in for a little bit. And then they put in Velus Jones to kind of end out the game. I thought it was an interesting move, especially to Velus not on any of the kick or punt returns. But let's continue talking. Actually, we still haven't broken down all the stats yet, because from a defensive perspective, the Bears only allowed 136 total passing yards, but 135 yards on the ground, allowing a 5-yard per clip rushing, mainly because of that Carson Steele, the crocodile, the guy that actually owns a gator. Carson Steele, 4 carries, 50 yards at 12.5 yards a carry. Keontae Ingram having 4 carries for 26 yards. So really the Bears being like towards the end of the game, allowing a lot of those rushes for big yards. But on defense, Jonathan Owen led in tackles with 8 total tackles. Tavarius Moore with 6 tackles and 1 tackle for loss. Micah Baskerville with the pass defense and 5 tackles. Same thing with Carl Jones. When you're looking at sacks, Mallory came away with a sack. That was really it. Like, I just kind of grabbed a little screenshot of some of those out there. Not as big of a sack party as we're accustomed to seeing. But Deshaun Mallory also coming away with the quarterback hit. Same thing with Khalid Kareem. So that's the stats. But let's talk about some of these overall impressions. Because what are some of your overall impressions? See Nicholas Gonzalez, what is good? Yeah, undefeated preseason, bear down. And he's saying Bayless played well. I am Kingdom, what is good? Kingdom Come, what is good, my friend? He's saying Reddy Stewart could possibly sneak into the 53, he's saying. And when is cut day? Great question. Cut day is on Tuesday. I thought it was going to be on Monday. It normally is on Monday. It's going to be Tuesday is the official cut down day. So we'll see if the Bears end up jumping it a little bit and start cutting some people on Monday, but we should see. Shy Drax saying too that he is impressed with the rushing defense, all lines. So let's talk a little bit more about some of these overall impressions, though, because the first thing I want to talk about is this was one of the first games that we actually had injuries. We had Larry Borum go down, and we've talked about it. Larry Borum has a pretty big role in this offense because he is the swing tackle. So I know that Larry Borum, to me, honestly, I was having him on my stock down watch just because I didn't think that he played as well as he normally should. I think that he hasn't looked the way that he did like a couple of years ago, where I thought that Larry Borum looked like a very capable swing tackle. And I didn't see that really out of that at the very beginning snaps. And I do hope that he has a quick recovery, because the thing you don't want is you don't want someone who's banged up that makes that roster. But with Larry Borum down, and then Simba Webster went down, and then Douglas Coleman, hopefully he can be okay. But also Karan Amagaji, he was activated, but he was not playing. And I should have expected that a little bit, just because he just got activated, just got into pads, and kind of like what I was saying on the show when we were doing the preview, I do expect him to be the player that they end up just kind of putting on IR and then allowing him to kind of grow into it. So we didn't see him, but other impressions, yeah, Bayless, not, like I said, him not playing on special teams, but really just focused in on at the running back to see what he can do. But also, too, I like that Dominique Robinson was out there and Noah Sewell was out there, which we will talk a little bit about later on. So those, not a lot of great overall impressions, just because it was just a mixture of a lot of these backup players. So let's talk a little bit about what we saw with the backups, because when the backups were out there, let's start out with the defense, because when I was watching some of the defense, there was a handful of good plays. So Coert, actually on the screen pass, I saw that Byron Coert kind of identified that it was a screen and immediately went back. So good veteran move by him. But also Dominique Robinson, I will say, as someone who has been critical of him and will continue to be critical of him, he played decently well. I think that the only time that he got pressure, he was, yet again, I don't see I don't see good hand usage. He's more of just trying to use power, trying to just run by his guy, but he did generate some pressure. So for what it's worth, he had a pretty decent game. I didn't think that he had a bad game or a bad outing by any stretch of the imagination. But let me know who you were impressed with in the first half on the defensive side of the football, because I don't really have any bads. I didn't really have any stock down people from the defensive side on the football. But on the offensive side of the football, on the defensive side, I have a lot of goods. Yet again, Austin Booker. Let's pull up the roster sheet. Austin Booker is just Austin Booker. Every time he's out there, he just looks different than all the other backups. He's constantly fighting. He's constantly going after the ball. What else can we say? I could just copy and paste my same audio that I put every week, right? It's nice and it's promising to see a player just continuously give forth this effort. Also, I got to give a shout out to Dwarmafor, the backup defensive tackle, and I thought that he had a pretty good game. There was a couple times that he had some swim moves. He was able to go right up the middle, and he was able to play pretty disruptively. I didn't really see that before, but today, very good day out of Michael Dwarmafor. So I want to give him his little flowers and say stock up to him. But also, Micah Baskerville. Micah Baskerville is now becoming like a linebacker that I'm like, okay, this guy can play. Like, I don't know how y'all feel, but Baskerville, to me, watching him, when you see other linebackers or other backups out there, Baskerville is smart. Baskerville, I saw obviously he broke up a pass today, but also he put himself in a very good position for a run stop. And when I'm watching him, he's playing very, very well. And I just really like what I'm seeing out of him. Not saying he's going to be all of a sudden a starter, but as a backup, we were kind of questioning who was going to step up in this backup unit. And I really do think that Micah Baskerville has stepped up. So to me, stock up for him. And my last person that was stock up out of the main group of backups, right? The main backup unit, I'm actually going to highlight Tarvarius Moore, because Tarvarius Moore, this is kind of like how Braxton Jones was last week, where Braxton Jones, I thought, had a good first quarter, but then second quarter kind of dropped off like completely. I thought Tarvarius Moore had a good first quarter, and I have a couple little notes on him that he broke up a dump off pass to the right, just immediately shut that down. Also has had a couple different good pursuits on tackles. I just thought that he played well. But then second quarter, he had some misses and just, some inconsistencies. But good first quarter out of him. Slightly down on the second quarter, but nothing terrible. But from a backup perspective, I thought it was okay. Like, I thought that the backup defense played well. I think it was another good day. Yet again, they only allowed like 7 points for 3 quarters. And then the fourth quarter, they gave all the points back. So very good. Also, Shy Drax saying, hopefully we get a show Tuesday night after the cut down. That is the plan. That is the plan. I am traveling for work during that week. So I'm hoping that I can just get into the hotel room, start cranking out some episodes. I even told them too, I'm like, I got to do some episodes. I got to do some episodes out there because it's roster cut downs. It's important time. So I will have a show, though, about who I think they're going to be cutting. So I will have that for sure. But also, let's flip over to this offense and break down what we think that, like, stock up, stock down for the backups on offense. So first off, just Tyson Bagent, I'm going to say stock up. Even though he was 3 of 6, you look at the stats, doesn't look too impressive, but I liked it. And also, I think that he took a little play out of Caleb Williams' playbook where, they kind of highlighted how he did a little pump fake, and then he was able to throw it to Rome Odunze last week. But this week, you saw Tyson Bagent kind of take that where he's scrolling out to the right side, kind of does a little pump fake to kind of push the defender back, runs it in for a touchdown. And I think, too, when you see him, Tyson Bagent he looks like the backup, and it looks like that's his job. And if we remember, this has been a long offseason. The Hall of Fame game, Brett Rippon was ripping it up. He was looking great. And Tyson Bagent just looked, Now I think Tyson Bagent has been looking like, hey, this is the clear-cut number 2, number 1, number 2 backup, if that makes sense. So to me, Bagent, stock up just because having another good day. Also, Bill Murray. I was very impressed with watching him. Bill Murray, there was a lot of snaps. I didn't really see much negative out of him. I just continue to watch him. Like I said in the preview show, I was really wanting to watch some of the interior offensive linemen. And that's, to me, Bill Murray looked very impressive. He was also out there in the first snaps and basically played throughout the entire game. And I really don't have many negatives on him. And also what I like in the run protection, in run blocking, he also moves people. He's not just somebody that sits there and just kind of takes the block and just guards his man. When he gets hands on people, he does move them. So I really liked him. I really thought that he had another good day today. And also, too, Jake Curhan, the backup right tackle. I thought that he's someone, yet again, that I've been critical of. I thought he had a pretty good day today. He had a couple good run blocks. Sometimes he doesn't get out to his block as quickly as I would want him to. But there was some solid pass blocks out there. I thought overall, pretty good game, especially since he played basically the entire game. I thought he had a pretty good outing. And also other backups that had good days. I got to say, Tyler Scott obviously led the team in catches with 5 receptions and also 99 yards. 6 catches for 99 yards. So had a very good day. I will say there was that pass over the middle and a couple catches. You saw kind of his double, like he doesn't have natural hands, I would say. He's still not a natural receiver. But hey, I thought that you can see the speed. I also thought when they did the end around, he had very good ball carrier vision to kind of let the play develop, let the blocks develop, and then kind of get that first down and get those extra yards. So overall, I thought yet again that he looked pretty darn good. But other than that, I'm looking through it. Like I said, Larry Borum, I thought that stock down didn't look great to me before the injury. But then also, Doug Kramer, the center, there was a couple times that he got just whooped after the snap. And that's something that Doug Kramer, as the backup, we talked about it. Is he officially going to be cut or is he going to be a practice squad player? I think that that's still up for debate just because of the current state of the Chicago Bears roster. But Carvin, I thought was okay. But Kramer, I didn't think that he had that great of a game. And then also Carter, DeAndre Carter. This is more from a special teams perspective, not an offensive perspective. Him being blocked back into his punt. I just thought, like, that's what the Bears just absolutely don't want. They have Dante Pettis, they have Carter as these reliable punt returners, and they just simply weren't reliable. They both fumbled it. Pettis fumbled last week, and now Carter fumbles it this week. All that the Bears want is someone that can just catch the football. So stock down to Carter, because I guarantee you the Bears are going, we just need someone that we can trust. We just need someone back there that we can trust that can just simply catch the punt, and that's it. But then my last stock down for at least the main group of backups before we get into the second half is Travis Homer. Travis Homer, I just don't get it. Maybe he's the greatest special teams player of all time if he ends up staying on this roster, but I just don't see it with Travis Homer because when the ball's in his hands, you don't feel like he's going to take it the distance. You don't feel like anything's going to happen. And whenever he's touching the ball, I wish I had the stats up of just his entire preseason. Nothing happens. The ball doesn't go anywhere. No one breaks a tackle. It just seems like it's going absolutely nowhere. And to me, that's why, I've seen enough. I don't want him on the team. And that might be another reason why they moved Velus, is because, hey, Ian Wheeler's a undrafted rookie free agent that hardly played any snaps. I think it was 200 at Howard his senior year. But then who else can we put back there? Because Homer doesn't really look that good. So stock down to him. Those are my ups and downs for just the main backups. But like I said, let me know down in the comments who your stock up, stock down for the backups are. But now let's get into the second half ups and downs, what I had out on my list, because let's go back to the defense, because I want to include a little bit more on the defensive side of the football. And this is where I will bring up the great Reddy Stewart. Reddy Stewart, pick 6, and also having another interception, having 2 interceptions on the day, but also came away with a decent amount of tackles. Reddy Stewart had a very good day today, and it suited him because we were kind of saying, where was he? Because in the first week, it was all about Reddy Stewart. Reddy Stewart, we got to look out for him. We got to watch him. He's going to pop. He's going to do something. Comes away with 2 passes defensed and also 2 interceptions and 2 tackles. I thought that he played very well, and that's what you want to see. Does he make the active roster? I still think that we have a very deep cornerback room, and I think that what they think about Reddy Stewart is going to come into play if he ends up making the roster compared to like a Greg Stroman or a Blackwell, because both of those players are good corners in this league. Is Reddy Stewart better than that? That to me is something that Reddy Stewart, maybe he just ends up sitting on the practice squad, but also, are you afraid that someone then poaches him because he just balled out in the final preseason game? So now people go, wait, who's this guy? Who's this guy now? We might need to take him. He almost played too well this game. So that's why, to me, stock up for him. But also, Shydrak saying Bears defense finally gave up a touchdown, a couple touchdowns, right? I was definitely sad because when I saw, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to get on the pod and say another game that the Bears only allow less than 8 points. Like this is incredible. It's 30-something to 7. And then it's like, no, stop the bleeding, stop the scoring. So for sure. And then Karan Amagaji did not play. I'm Kingdom Come was asking about that. Karan, we did not see him out there. I wish we did, but I think that just more so points to he's probably going to be on IR, probably not going to see him for quite some time so that he can just kind of scale up as a Chicago Bear. But let's continue talking about some of my stocks up for the defense. Also Khalid Kareem and Daniel Hardy. Those are my other two people that I wanted to say stock up for the second half backups. Kareem, as soon as he came in, you just saw an instant burst. He started kind of pressuring the quarterback. He just continuously beat his man. And like we said, Hardy and Kareem are probably going to be duking it out for the practice squad. Unless the Bears really, I think it would honestly be a bold move if they were to take a Jacob Martin instead of or take Hardy instead of Jacob Martin. Because yet again, we saw this last year. They didn't go with the people they didn't go with Travis Gibson. They didn't go with Terrell Lewis. They went with Rasheem Green, right? Are they going to do something like that? Or are they going to give a chance to some of these younger players to make the potential roster? But I thought Kareem and Hardy both played very well. Hardy had a good block shed, a couple, like what I was watching. He had a little dip, was able to pressure Ian Book, and also made a good play in the backfield, kind of just ducked underneath the player, and then that's when he ended up getting the tackle for a loss. So ultimately, Kareem and Hardy, I hope one of them at least makes the roster. But if the Bears are able to add somebody, then I'm fine with them being on the practice squad, just because I think the Bears can still add somebody in free agency that gives them a little bit more of a bump than one of those players. But really, Kareem, Hardy, they look good. They come out there and they're just consistently putting pressure on the quarterback. That's what you're supposed to see out of your defensive ends. And I just thought great plays out of them. But next, I got to talk about my bad. Ladies and gentlemen, this is when Sewell makes my list. I did not like what I saw out of Noah Sewell today. I don't know where, like last year when we watched him, this guy looked really good. This guy looked fierce. This guy looked fast. I know that he's been banged up and he must still be banged up. He looked a little awkward out there. Noah Sewell, I did not like it. I thought stock down for me. And even just when he was out there was times where he over pursued. He had a decent amount of missed tackles. I actually got to even look. Did he even make a tackle? Because I don't think he even made a tackle too. Let me see. Because he was out there for a while. And yeah, just on my list, I think I cut it off at 2. So he didn't get 2 tackles from according to ESPN. So yeah, didn't have a good game. Played a lot. Didn't like what I saw out of him. And I just didn't see that same burst. Even when he was attacking, he just looked timid. He just looked like the person that was just a little bit of afraid of contact. So didn't look like the same player that we saw out of Oregon and saw last year for the small amount of reps during the preseason. So to me, stock down, Noah Sewell. But then, this person I had on stock down, but then I thought had a better game. And that was Carl Jones. Carl Jones at the very beginning in the first half, I thought was making a little bit of over pursuing some plays, wasn't in the right spot. But then the second half, he's like, all right, I got to turn it on. And he started shedding blocks, making tackles, made a good open field tackle, made a good handful of plays. So Carl Jones went from stock down at the very beginning to stock up, because I thought that he played very well towards that tail end of the game and just continuously was churning out some good plays. And my last player that I had to do for stock down, and I don't like doing stock downs, especially towards the end, but someone we have not talked about too much from the stock down perspective, Keith Randolph Jr., the undrafted rookie free agent out of Illinois, someone that we were kind of hoping would take a leap and potentially be that 4th defensive tackle for us. I thought he had a really bad game. When I was watching him, he was getting moved, he was getting put on skates, and then also he just was not in the right spots, and just I saw like his arms like trying to do something, but nothing ended up happening. I thought that he had a bad game. Stock down to him for sure. But now, let's finish this out with the offense, and then we'll talk about bear of the game, and then we will break it. Then we will kind of talk about what is coming up next for our Chicago Bears, what I'll do next for the show. But the offense, I actually don't really have a lot of good stuff. I think that Austin Reed had a good game. I thought that he played well. So I'd say stock up if you can. But at the same time, I would say stock down because I still think that Brett Rippon, he's just not going to be the backup. So technically that is stock down. But also I think Reed, I'd be surprised. I'd be shocked if he ends up on the practice squad because they're only going to keep one on the practice squad. But other than that, like from the second half, and actually, yeah, Scott technically in the second half, he was the player that really shined that entire second half because I'm like, wait, they scored. What were they doing in the second half? Oh, yeah, Tyler Scott was the person that was really doing well. But I'll tell you, even though that Ian Wheeler had 5 carries for 5 yards, I just like the way that he runs, man. I really like just how he is constantly fighting, trying not to go down. He's just fun to watch. He's just a lot of fun to watch. And that's why I like him out of all the other running backs that are out there. Because Velus Jones is the next one. I hesitate on stock up or stock down. Because I think what you saw today, not to be a party pooper, I think what you saw today is what we know about Velus Jones. Velus Jones, in between the tackles, trying to find the hole, doesn't know how to do that. He's not a natural running back. But when he has the space, when he has the area, you can see him fly. That's the whole thing with Velus Jones. That's the whole speed piece. So to me, Velus isn't a stock up or stock down. To me, I think that Velus Jones is more of he did well. I think that he did very solid. But other kind of bad stock down, I didn't love a lot of the stuff out of our backup tight ends. When I was watching a lot of the tackles that happened behind this line of scrimmage, a lot of it was tight ends trying to do like these reach blocks, and they just never really got to the spot that they wanted. So I'm curious if the Bears are going to be looking during the waiver wire. Is someone going to cut a tight end, and do they want to add one in? But the only other thing, number 82, LeBlanc, didn't think that he had a good game, just saw him out there a lot more. But the last little stock down that I want to just talk about is Ja'Tyre Carter, where Ja'Tyre Carter, it wasn't like he had a bad game. It wasn't like it was bad. But yet again, this is stock up, stock down. And if I'm talking about stock up, stock down, like I said, Bill Murray to me, I thought played very, very well. Matt Pryor was out there and I thought he played well. And then you have Ja'Tyre Carter. And I thought that both of those guards played better than Carter. And I thought Carter kind of played a little awkwardly out there. So I'm really curious if Bill Murray is actually going to take Ja'Tyre Carter's spot or even Pryor. Because you see what they think about Pryor. He's out there. They play him for a while at right guard. They take him out. So that is something. That's why, to me, Ja'Tyre Carter stocked down, because I didn't think that he had as good of a game as those other guards that were out there. So that's my take on first glance. Yet again, this is all on first glance. Obviously, no all 22. But that's what I think. Let me know what you think down below. But now, it's the moment everybody's been waiting for. Who is the bear of the game? Let me know down in the chat. Who is your bear of the game? Are we giving it? So let's look at some of the stats, right? Are we giving it to, on the offense, there's Brett Rippon, who had a good game. There's Velus Jones, who had over 111 yards and 11 yards receiving, or Tyler Scott for showing out and having almost 100 yards. Who do you think is bear of the game? Because I think that this is another pretty easy one. And I'm Kingdom Come. I agree. I think that the MVP, the bear of the game, I think it's Reddy Stewart. He's got the pick 6. He had the interception. And I just think that this is what he needed to do. Because like I said before, the reason why I really do think that he gets that title of bear of the game, Tyler Scott, I thought, played well, but I don't think that he showed us some crazy stuff. He was just the best wide receiver out there, so they kept throwing him the ball. And then, like I said, Velus, when you give him a hole, he can run. So that's why they're not my bears of the game. But Reddy Stewart, he really showed something that he didn't do next. So that to me, Reddy Stewart, bear of the game for sure. So that wraps it up. So let's talk about what's next. And Shy Drax is asking any news about the injuries. That will be something that we'll stay in tune with, just to see what is going on with some of these injuries, because, you know, obviously the people that went down, right? Because Larry Borum, Simba Webster, Douglas Coleman, you know, no offense. It's zero offense to Douglas Coleman. Like, we weren't expecting him to make the roster, but so I just hope that he has his health, right? Like, that's the biggest thing, especially for someone that's fighting for the roster spot. But now we just listen, because I think that Larry Borum to me is the biggest injury news that is going to come out. Because if Larry Borum, let's say hypothetically he has to go on IR, what do the Bears do, right? There's some offensive tackles that the Bears could add. Like, legit, when I was watching Curran, and even though that I was like, I liked what I saw out of Curran, I wasn't in love with what I saw out of him. There's still some good swing tackles that the Bears could potentially add. And I'm looking at it going, you know, Ryan Poles, I would really like that, because if one of those tackles goes down, I don't really have full faith that any of those is going to be able to have like a 90% pass block efficiency rate, which that's a really bad pass block efficiency rate. I just don't think they're really going to be able to hold their own for our franchise quarterback. So to me, I think that Larry Borum's injury is going to be the one to watch, because if he's not able to go, yeah, try to pick someone up, try to add someone to this team on the offensive line side. And maybe they do. You know, we'll keep you all covered here as the Bears now are done with preseason and they dwindle down their roster. And if you're watching now, you're a true Bears fan, because you watched the entire fourth preseason game with all these backups and stayed up to listen to a post-game show. I appreciate y'all for doing that. Make sure to hit like, make sure to subscribe, comment. It helps out the show tremendously, and share it out with your friends. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she